So good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to be doing our awareness series in a hybrid format now. So whether you're here in person or you're with us virtually, we really appreciate you joining us this afternoon for a presentation. My name is Kayla Rogers, and I am the program supervisor for the Women's Fund. For those of you who are not familiar with our organization, we are a not-for-profit located in Houston, and we provide women and girls with the tools that they need to be advocates for their health. So if you're interested in learning more about the Women's Fund, you can always visit our website, thewomensfund.org, where you can find out a little bit more about who we are, our mission, and you can also download our publications. So today we have a presentation with Heather Scholl. Heather has worked with us numerous times and always does a fabulous job. So definitely looking forward to this one. A little bit about Heather. She is a social entrepreneur with a 20-year career in personal training and a passion for creating social change. After graduating from Texas A&M University, she began her career in fitness industry as a personal trainer and facility manager in Hamilton, Texas. There, she teamed up with the owner and local healthcare leaders to build a cardiac rehab program and sold the fitness center to Hamilton Hospital before moving to Houston. While building a clientele in Houston, Heather teamed up with friends to found the nationally recognized nonprofit organization Boot Campaign. The organization funds the treatment of PTSD with a special focus on physical wellness that is unique to veteran services organizations. The service-centered focus of building a nonprofit inspired her to think bigger and dive deeper with people. In 2017, she launched The Village's Gym, a concierge wellness studio that merges traditional healthcare with preventative wellness to provide cardiac rehab and other exercise-based programs. When she's not chasing dreams in the gym with clients, Heather keeps busy watching her musician husband sing on stage and her twin boys swinging from chandeliers. So we are very excited to have you speak for us, Heather. Let's go ahead and welcome her.
Guys, okay, I feel like I need to shorten my bio. It's too long after 25 years. Okay, I'm so excited to be here again. Thank you for having me. And I think everybody knows today we're going to figure out how many squats you're going to do in this next hour. No, I'm kidding. Today we're going to figure out, kind of help you figure out what the best exercise is to meet your goals, and then why that is that exercise. We're going to kind of workshop it in an opposite fashion. So first of all, the short answer to this question is the most calories burned per minute is, drum roll, running. Okay, and that's it. So you'll have a good day and a good lunch. And no, I think that everybody knows running is just miserable enough to be what you need. But it's not for everybody, right? And there's a lot of reasons around that. So instead of me just telling you what the best exercise is for you or having you do lots of squats, you guys, they told me to wear comfortable clothes in case I needed a squat, and it scared me. Like, wait a minute, am I exercising and I didn't know it? But really, I want to kind of workshop a little bit. What is the best exercise for you and why? And for you guys in person, I have some handouts for you to pass around the class just for fun, and I'll refer to them. And then I can get those to you digitally also for those on Zoom. These are just some fun exercises. For those of you on Zoom, one of them is a chart that's exercise and calorie guide. So kind of gives a breakdown of what your weight is, what the exercise is, and how much you burn in 30 minutes. So a lot of times when I see people, what they want to know is, how do I lose weight the fastest? Right? The answer is stop eating, by the way. But exercise wise, this gives you a guide. People kind of generally want to know, and then you start to break down like, well, how willing am I to do what's on this list? And we'll talk more about that. And then this other one is approximate number of minutes to burn 500 calories. So it's just another way to look at those same numbers. And I think we talked about this, in another presentation, but 3,500 calories are in a pound. So I talk a lot about the calories and the burn because the number one goal I see is weight loss, right? I talked about that. It's like, by and large, that tends to be at the top of the list when we prioritize them. So this is just kind of general idea. So 3,500 calories in a pound. So this chart that's based on 500 calories, that's if you wanted to lose a pound a week. So you just take 3,500 calories, divide by 7 days, it's 500 calories a day. So if you look at that, you'll realize again, well, how willing am I to do this? Because some of those minutes get pretty long. So, okay. I think the first thing about figuring out what's the best exercise for you and why is what is your goal? Like I said, a lot of people just want to lose weight. Some people want to lose 5 pounds, some people want to lose 50 pounds, but that tends to be a thing where we get to be real caught up in how we look here, right? So, and I get it, right? You want your clothes to fit, you want to feel good, and a lot of that is about your weight, and we tend to use weight as a guide. So that is by and large the number one. The other, there's 3 more major goals. One of them is increasing strength. So a lot of people are interested in increasing strength. So typically, and I see people as they get older, we have lots of people in their 90s over our place. So people want to maintain their strength. And you start to realize that you can't do things that you used to do. And then sometimes you just want to feel strong. And that's kind of the space I'm in, is I like to feel strong more than I need to feel skinny. Sometimes I just want to feel like I can chase my children around and not die. And then endurance is another common goal, is being able to go up the flight of stairs. It's usually when you're challenged by something that you realize, maybe I need to work on that. So endurance is another one. And then the fourth most common is flexibility and balance. Just mobility in general, the ability to just move around comfortably and just, you know, you don't want to have to walk around and notice your body all the time. Like, ugh, you don't want to have a series of I can't. I can't do that, or I can't do that. And my husband needs a knee replacement right now. And it finally, his list of can'ts are starting to outweigh the list of can. Okay, fine. If you can't tie your shoes, you can't pick up the golf ball, you can't do all the things you want to do, then it's time to take a look at that. So those are kind of the 4 top ones. And so we need to consider those. And so if you guys just write down for yourself out of those 4, kind of how would you prioritize those? Weight loss, increased strength, endurance, and then flexibility balance. Okay. Just kind of get an idea of where you are on those. So that's the first thing to consider. The next thing to consider in terms of what is the best thing for you to do is consider your limitations. We all have them, right? It's just, what are they, right? And so the 4 top limitations that I see are physical limitations. Like I can't because I'm not strong enough, or I don't have the endurance, or I need a knee replacement, or, you know, all these aches and pains. I don't know what to do with that. Mental. So some of this is just, might not like it, right? You just don't like to exercise. I see that a lot. What can I do? I mean, we have talked about this too before. The best thing to do is the thing you want to do. But if you generally in your mind think I don't like exercise, then that can be a real mental challenge. Is where do I even start when I don't want to do those things? Time is a huge limitation for people. I think in general, when I'm in a one-on-one conversation, I'm saying we all make time for the things that we want to do. So, but not everybody wants to exercise. Right? We always want the result of the exercise, but sometimes you don't want to go for a walk or to the gym or get on a bike or whatever that thing is. And then equipment. Equipment can be a limitation. So I know, like, there's years ago that I was training for a triathlon. Well, I didn't have a pool. I mean, just because I wanted to do it didn't mean I could do it, right? And then some of that too is equipment and financial limitations around what you have access to. So maybe you can't get to a gym. Maybe a gym is not in the budget, right? I mean, the good news about the financial limitation for this is movement is the goal. We'll get to what the best exercise is, but movement can solve all of the goals in some form or another. It doesn't have to be the highest calorie burning exercise on the chart, right? Which is why we're talking about this. If running was really the answer, then I really wouldn't have a presentation. It's not the answer. It's what do you have access to? What do you have time for? What can you physically do? And what do you want to do? And those are a big part of deciding what is best for you. All right, and then 3, you need to choose your exercise based on those limitations, right? So just in this room, since I have you guys, I don't know if anybody on Zoom can speak up, but what kind of exercise do you like to do? Is there any?
I like running.
You like running, that's great. Yeah, not a lot of people like running. I can't tell you the number of people over the last couple of decades that will say, I'm not gonna run. Like, I'm not gonna make you.
Yeah.
I'm not the make people run coach, right? I mean, it's how do we sort it out? So you like to run. Anybody else?
I like to walk and I like rowing.
Oh, I love it. I'm surprised how many people really like rowing. Will ask us to get a rowing machine at the gym. But yeah, walking is great. It's such an easily dismissed form of exercise, but it really is, I think, one of the very best because you can, like all those limitations, right? Like most of us have time to walk, right? I mean, we walk everywhere we go, even though we might not be able to do it for dedicated exercise. You don't need any equipment for it. Mentally, It's relaxing. It can be because it's just regular movement. You don't have to do a lot to get your brain trained to go for a walk, you know? And then physically, most of us can walk, right? Anybody else? Exercise, running? Do you exercise at all?
A little bit,
A
yeah.
little bit, yeah. What do you like to do?
Well, I ride horses, which some,
Yeah.
some people say that's the horses exercising, not me. I'm just sitting there.
Horse riding is.
So listen, you ride a bike, the bike moves you, but you still have to move the
I
thing.
think so.
Yeah,
I think
you gotta stay alive too,
Yeah.
right? I'm scared of horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Get somebody on that horse to
Yeah,
saying that to tell you it's not working.
Tell them they need to get on the horse.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, anybody else? Kendall, what do you like to do?
Right now, I'm kind of seconding you on walking. It's been like really nice lately. I really enjoy running. It kind of goes in waves, you know,
Yeah.
of doing that. And I've been over the last year really liking weightlifting, just for that thing of once I learned what it felt like to feel stronger,
Yeah.
I really enjoy that feeling outside of aesthetics, just that feeling of I feel more capable in my body for what I do.
Yeah, it's
So,
amazing. I think that's one of the things, and of course, weight training has come a long way, and, you know, like since my mom was a kid or my grandmother, you know, anytime we specialize in older adults at our space, and so we tend to get people who are valuing it for bone density and mobility, and there's a lot of other things that are happening, but it's amazing what weight training can do for you. And listen, no person ever sits at my desk and is like, I just want to get really huge. Like, no, they're like, oh, don't do that to me. You know, and it's not, but it's amazing then. And I always say this, exercise is your daily conversation with your body. And if you are not exercising on a regular basis, how could you possibly have any idea what's going on in there? Right? You got to go to the doctor for him to tell you what's going on. And I'm not saying I go to the doctor and tell him what's wrong with me, but I do, right? I can't really know from the inside out all the time, but you gotta know what's going on, and you don't need to run for that. You don't need to lift it. You need to move. You have got to move to know that didn't do that yesterday. There's something going on in there. And that comes from a system standpoint inside your body, like I haven't used the restroom, or I haven't, you know, or that my knee hurts. That doesn't usually hurt like that, because if you're not exercising, how did that happen? Sleeping wrong? I mean, that happens to all of us, you know, stuff happens, and unless you have a regular conversation with your body through exercise, it is really hard to understand what's happening. And I think, you know, there are obviously some outside of, you know, out of bounds things that happen, like, was it Slow Joe that died? So, I mean, there's things that happen that we don't know the answer to, that fit people do have, you know, issues, but a lot of the times you can cut that off of the past by regular doctors and just exercising, knowing what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the things with, I'm guessing, Linda, you don't have a lot of limitations around walking, other than just making it a priority, right? I mean,
Yeah, make it a
time and
priority.
making it, yeah, that's hard. I mean, I think a lot of times making the exercise a priority is the hardest part, no matter what it is, because sure, we can all walk, but it's just figuring out when you do that for exercise versus when you do it because you're going from one place to
One
another.
of my coworkers and I have brought our tennis shoes and we're starting to walk around the block.
Oh, I love it.
Part of the day. Well, at least
Great.
that time of day, but COVID has sort of limited that since we're
Right.
not all in the office.
Yeah, it is hard, especially when you have an accountability partner with COVID, it can be hard. But you know, some of that stuff we've done with people on the phone. Right? Where it's like, okay, we're going for a while. We have a cardiac rehab program, and some of the people going through different things don't feel comfortable coming in to do it. Well, they're doing it on the phone. I'm not even leading it. One of the other people is saying, okay, now do this. And even if they don't have weights in their hand, right? And a lot of that part is the social side too of exercise, is having somebody with you, which is a big part of it. And then the last thing in terms of figuring out what's best for you and why is get it on the schedule, get it on the schedule, get it on the schedule. You have got to plan for it. Nobody wakes up in the morning and gets everything done if they don't have it on a list or on the schedule some way or somehow. So I think you have to think creatively about your options for exercise and just figuring out time limitations. You know, are all of you guys currently exercising on a regular basis?
Walking.
Yeah, I mean, everybody here, you guys don't even need to be here. I mean, this is, whatever you're doing is working, okay? You may want it to work more, but I think figuring out what that thing is, and then what are some of the limitations that you guys have? I know for you, Linda, we just talked about that time. Time is one that's pretty common.
Sometimes it's just like, it's motivation. I get home and I'm like, oh, I have all these other things to do. So I don't feel motivated to go out and
and work out.
Right, yeah, motivation, that's that mental part, right? The limitation a lot of times is mental. And I'll never forget having coaching my first person through a triathlon. I hadn't even done one, so I was just researching everything. I coached him a million years ago, and her having a heart rate monitor, and me, I got this training on heart rate monitors, and I went and got mine, and then I'm like, you gotta use this. This is gonna be a great guide for us in terms of intensity and how the training is going. And for whatever, now we have all these devices, right? Everybody's got, I've got a Whoop, and we've got Fitbit, we've got all this stuff, but I think that now a lot of times you see people focus on steps, which is really great, because it's something we're all achieving on a regular basis. But understanding that when you don't feel like going for a run, going for a walk matters. You know, I mean, I think that was such a huge thing. And I was probably 25 when I was going through this. And so I had only known sports, you know, I'd only just gone hard, played the sport, do the thing. And then I kind of got into running, but I didn't know if I liked it or not. But I just started to realize you can burn the same amount of calories walking as you can running, you just got to do it longer. Right. So yeah, from an efficiency standpoint, it's not as efficient, but it's so great for you. And I think that's a big part of it when the motivation is gone to do the big thing. It's like, okay, let's just walk. And I can remember telling myself that all the time was walk out the door. But don't think about anything else, walk out the door. And I can't remember if I was saying this last time I saw you guys, but I was going through this about my new thing for this year was to add meditation. Just because I have a crazy schedule. Everybody has a crazy schedule. You know how it is, everything gets in the way. And it was like, I gotta do this. Where am I gonna do it? If I do it when I wake up, I need a quiet place, but I wake up at 4 a.m. So then I can't, what if I'm just gonna fall back asleep? You know, if I do it after school or after work, and I've got my kids there. If I like, what do I wear? What if I can't sit like that? Do I get up and I'm gonna leave? All that to say, it was never gonna get done, right? I mean, it's an important process to go through, which is what this is sort of figuring out what are your limitations? How do you do this thing? And what's in the way of you getting there? So I started meditating as I'm driving in the car. Close my eyes, don't worry, but it's, you know, even though he says, okay, close your eyes. And it's quick and it's fast, but it's happening in a way that was not happening before. And I think that's the key with the exercise also is, how do I get started? It's not always where do I want to end up? And then also knowing that, you know, maybe you guys are all exercising, you know, somewhat regularly and know what works for you already, but it's like, how do you figure out whatever you're doing now may not be the thing that you do forever? And so when you go through periods, off periods, what does that look like? Because I know there's times when I go to a certain class all the time and then something happens and I'm either over it or my schedule changes and then I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Now I don't have the thing. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, have some grace around like, well, maybe I need a break. You know, maybe I need to take a break from things and then sort this out. And so I was like, okay, well, what's my next cadence for this? And and I'm doing that right now. Like I said, meditation is part of it. My schedule has changed. I want to be with my kids in the morning. You know, there's a lot of factors. I think giving yourself grace in the time of figuring out like, okay, maybe that's not my thing right now. Maybe, you know, I'm not going to be running right now. I'm going to be training for something right now, but maybe I need to meditate in my car for 8 minutes every morning. That's my thing right now. Do you guys have questions? I mean, it sounds like you guys are all exercising already and questions or how to add something in that you're not doing that you're interested in.
Well, you said something about, this isn't my exercise right now. How long should you give yourself? Because I'm going through that right now. And should I give myself a month to see if I really don't like it, don't want to go back? Or, you know, what's the appropriate amount of time to kind of
Sort it out.
out?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it can feel a little unsettling to do nothing when you're used to doing something all the time. I mean, that's how I felt. Well, Kendall and I were workout partners forever, and then she moved out of the country. I'm like, wow. Well, sorry. What am I going to do? And of course, I can exercise by myself, but I just we had habits.
Yeah.
We formed. So I thought, well, I kind of don't want to do the things that I used to do without her because a lot of the draw was doing it together. So what does that look like? So I think for you, maybe it's asking yourself, what is appealing? Typically when I'm going through that, I think, okay, I don't want to be completely off of everything. So what is something that I know I want to do right now? And so for me, like I just got this little cruiser bike during COVID and it's so cute. It was just the most ridiculous thing, right? It's kind of like getting a new workout outfit. I'm like, I'm going to wear that, you know, I'm going to ride that bike. It's so cute. And so I think right now what you're sorting it out is what do you figure out what you want to do, something that sounds appealing, like yoga for me, like it doesn't replace running. but it takes the place, so for me, of a purpose in my mind, like I need to move.
Oh,
And it makes me feel calm, and maybe it's a full hour where I can think, you know, because a lot of times that's what I'm missing from the running. Also, for us, we're running together, so we're talking and sorting out our whole lives together in an hour, and then
right.
see you tomorrow at 9, you know, but I was missing that. So I think a lot of times what's missing is the mental benefit from exercise. So try to find something in the time that you're sorting out that feels good, and maybe a walk. Sometimes I walk and listen to books. You know, something that you think is really enjoyable. That's the place that I have to go when I'm in that sorted, otherwise I'm gonna push too hard
Right.
at finding another thing that replaces the thing, instead of thinking, okay, it's like what I went through with the heart rate monitor, realizing, oh, I don't want to run. It turns out my heart, I'm burning calories. And it's kind of like the step thing, right?
Right.
You know, or you're winding your arm up to get the,
Yeah.
whatever it is you feel like doing while sorting it out, I would recommend that, thinking through what you enjoy. And sometimes it's walking and talking on the phone. I think if there's somebody you want to talk to, it's something I always tell myself, okay, well, I need to do this thing. Why don't I walk while I
Yeah.
I love my mother-in-law. So I'm like, why don't I walk while I talk to her? You know, something where you can find it enjoyable that may also fill something else for you. And then I think figuring out what you want next. Like a lot of times too, I try a lot of things. I try a lot of classes. I made a New Year's resolution for myself 2 years ago to not work out at my own gym because I'm at work.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, I don't know that the chef goes home and prepares a 5-course meal for his children. You know, it's, I have to get away from it too. So for me, it's, what do I want to try? So I went back to yoga classes. I went back to Orange Theory, big yoga, soul cycle. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to put everything on the table for right now and figure out what do I want to do? Because I also don't want to get up in the morning and be like, oh, I'm going to do this, you know? And so that changes. And then, you know, I think also I always have to tell myself, I'll get back to that thing,
Right.
you know, instead of that fear of like,
Oh,
if I stop now, it might not start again, you know? So then I would keep choosing something I didn't enjoy that much. And
Oh.
so a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, you know what, I really, like I said, I really like to ride that silly little bike. It's not all exercise really, but it's so cute. And for me, my kids are at home, they have bikes, so I'm like, let's all go ride bikes. You know, it might not be far, it might not be much, but I think it's movement,
uh-huh.
right? Like mentally I enjoy that, physically my body benefits from it. And then also I sleep better at night if I exercise. We have to think about all those other little things, but I think the day-to-day is making sure you like it. You know?
So for someone who's time challenged, I'm time and then motivationally challenged,
Sure.
but someone who's time challenged, is it beneficial to do short little spurts? Because I can find 10 minutes, 15 minutes several times during the day and go take a walk.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know if they can hear you, but it's time and motivation challenge, but you don't have a big window of time, but you have small windows of time. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the times what happens with that is, and this may not be your case, but how do I dress for work and is it appropriate to go for a walk? So if, you know, 3 times a day, you're like, I gotta change my shoes, I gotta put my hair up, I got, you know, then it might not be convenient. But if you can find a way that makes that simple, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna go. And a lot of times in a work day, you know, like I was saying, sometimes it's, I have to be very efficient with my time. So I usually have a lot happening in one period of time, you know, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna walk and make a call. I'm gonna walk and check my email. It's not is it the best case scenario? No, but it's like me trying to figure out what time and where I'm gonna lay down and close my eyes and where the right clothes and not fall.
Right.
So I'm meditating in my car, who cares? You know, so you're walking and checking email, who cares? You know, just build on that. And then if you have something tracking your movement, I think that does help. Not from a calorie perspective, but just something that gives you a check in of, okay, I moved, I did it. You know, I did it today. And one of my boys, I just got him, they're 9, so I just got him a Fitbit. That thing is hilarious because he's no different than every other adult. We're all the same. He's like, Mom, look, you know, Mom. And it's just like that, getting some way to figure out that you're moving, a reminder for yourself. And, you know, I always say, I set alarms on my phone for things like that. And so I don't know if you have a consistent enough schedule or if you can think, okay, and a lot of times I try to give myself a lot of time to do it so I can like beat my own goal. Like, okay, well, by June, I'm going to have a schedule where I'm going to walk every Monday and Wednesday, Friday at 9. And it may be for 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And then you just start, okay, I'm going to start to get there. It's Monday, and you just set an alarm on your phone. And you start to shift your schedule around. And I'm not saying that's the right time, you know, but whatever that is, where it's, I'm going to get to work 10 minutes early and walk before I walk in the office. Or before I'm allowed to get in my car, I'm gonna walk around the parking garage or what, whatever the scenario is. But yeah, absolutely, those little windows matter. And I mean, my joke at the gym is Netflix and Mill. I'm like, oh, you don't like to exercise? Do you like Netflix? Okay, we'll bring that to the gym. You're not allowed to watch that show unless you're on that treadmill or that bike or what, it's gotta be, you've gotta create something there that makes it feel rewarding. And for me, that made, like I said, I love my mother-in-law. So I'm like, oh, I'll call her. This will be fun. She's like, and so we can get on a little thing there, or sometimes it is work. It's like, okay, I have this call. I don't have to be visible. I can listen in. I will walk, and I'm a pacer in general on calls. So that is
Or
probably.
sometimes we'll take our meetings as walks. So like,
Yes.
even though we're in the same
Yeah, we'll walk.
office, instead of sitting and having the meeting that we need, we'll like just go outside and walk in our work clothes, but just take it to the road and then I'll get home and see like, oh, we got 3,000 steps in while just
Right.
talk, like you don't think anything of it. You go back and then you're like back on your computer and doing whatever, like it's not even a conscious thing. So stuff like that is really helpful to see how you can stack things.
Yeah, and that's a great point because we do that. And I think people tend to think, oh, you have a gym, so of course, I'm like, trust me, it is just as hard for me. That's why I get up at 4. Do you think I want to? I do not want to get up at 4. I get up at 4 because it's the only time I can get up and get it done before my day. Because as we all know, once your day starts, that's not going to happen. But I think another thing about that is I started scheduling meetings instead of going to lunch with people. If anybody would go for a walk with me, I will walk. So we'll meet at the park. I know you and I went to lunch, like that could have been a walk, next time we could walk. But, typically I know that I'm wearing this all day where other people need to come and go from work. So it doesn't always make sense. But when it does, like Sandy and I, we walk on a Saturday morning. And that's just, we catch up through that or have word meetings through that. If it feels, sometimes that's not the professional thing to do, but it's easier for me, I think.
That's great advice. Is there any benefit? We've talked about this in our office of getting those stationary bicycles that you can get for under your desk, the things.
Buy what you are 100% sure you want to use. So will it work? If you do it, yes. If you don't do it, no. What I mean? So it's I get that question all the time, like I'm ready to invest in a piece of exercise equipment for my house. What should I get? I'm like, what do you already do? Or what do you want to do? I think people are more hesitant to get a Peloton at that price tag. They're like, oh, I'll be using that, versus like, oh, I got a treadmill at Academy, which is still an investment for sure, but it becomes the clothes hanger, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, everybody has that, right? And I honestly think a treadmill, living in Texas, we have so many months of the year that we can walk. It's not the best investment because you should just go walk. I mean, it's a much more, I think, enjoyable. I mean, minus the Netflix. If you want a Netflix, buy the treadmill because that's fun too. But I think a lot of times those things just get ignored and people just forget about them. I could just go for a walk or I'll do that. And so that doesn't happen. But I think anything you will do. So sure, if you guys, I think you have to make something out of it. We talked a little about the corporate wellness stuff. Like you would have to make a challenge around it or, because no matter what, exercise stuff is an investment. Even dumbbells get heavy. I mean, haha. Get expensive, but it's one of those things that it would be great if you do it. I mean, are you likely to do it? I don't know. A group walk's probably gonna have more accountability, you're saying, and whatever that looks like for you guys. Yes.
So my question, when you were talking about limitations, one of them was financial.
Mhm.
And there are so many great like videos out there, like Jillian Michaels DVDs, or
Yes.
even free stuff like YouTube. Would you
Yes.
recommend those?
Yeah, I mean, I think when finance is a limitation on something like that, I think it's smart to use those tools if it's something that you want to do. So, if you don't really like to weight train, I wouldn't suggest selling yourself. You're going to do a lot of weight training online because you don't want to buy it at a gym. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, listen, there's a ton of free material out there. Absolutely. Honestly, I always feel like most of my job as a trainer is accountability. So I think a really smart way to build this in is having some form of accountability, whether that's with a friend, something, and that friend doesn't even have to do what you're doing, right? I mean, a lot of times it's check in like, okay, I'm getting up to work out. Are you? That's why I say the phone thing, right? It's if you don't want to do it, then digitally might not be any more of an inspiration to you than otherwise. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason to join a gym if you know you're motivated to do a video. A lot of times the motivation is the problem, not the access. Because truthfully, I could build an at-home workout for anybody with no equipment and body weight, push-ups, sit-ups, lunges. Does it mean they're gonna do? You know, again, a lot of my role in people's lives is accountability, you know? Some of it's not the knowing, it's the doing. Right, so that's why I was just saying this earlier today. I always say, I really want to play guitar. Problem is, I don't want to learn how to play guitar, so I will never play guitar. So I just have to know that, right? So I think that's the thing, is like accepting what your limitation is, and if your limitation is motivation, then don't set yourself up to think you're going to do it online. But if you are like, Mondays, I'm going to do, and I think a lot of times that's a great way to start, is a little bit, right? So it's 10 minutes, because there's real value in that. So maybe it's like, I am going to make a goal. And I always try to set goals for myself and for other people when I'm sitting down in these meetings. Let's make this really attainable. And let's beat that pretty easily. Because then you're more motivated, right? It's like, oh, that feels so overwhelming. Maybe we want to do a workout video once a week for 20 minutes, you know? That 20 minutes is more than you've been doing, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend online resources for that stuff. It's great. There are apps, there's accountability apps, there's personal training online. Jillian Michaels is great. There, Kayla Enzymes or whatever has some, there's Beachbody, there's infinite. I think it's finding something that motivates you. And usually what those will have is like some form of online community that's got other people to talk to and chat with, and, you know. But if you're motivated, absolutely, work out online. So there's a ton of good resources for that.
And what is a good exercise or to help build strength? Not
Strengthen your arms.
I don't, yes, my upper body strength has gotten really bad as
Right.
I've aged.
Right. Well, and you know what? We all notice it more doing things, right? When I lived in the small town, it was the bags of hay bag, bales of hay,
Hey, Bill.
feed bags. Yeah, I can't lift those feed bags, you know, or a keg of beer. That was one of them. Whatever motivates you. So great exercise for upper body push-ups and not on the ground like a military person. Start standing. I don't want to put my hands on this TV, but a standing push-up on the wall. And the further back you go, the harder it is. So obviously if you're standing here, that's not real hard, right? But the further back you go, the harder it gets. And then once you're here, you can start to go to the floor. So in a floor version of that, you also would not start as a military person, right? You would start on your knees, all fours, hands wide, up and down. And as you get stronger, you extend further out. And before you know it, you can go to, but just something like that is a great upper body exercise. It's also a great core exercise. And so just modify that to standing, work your feet away from the wall until you get to the floor. And I would say 3 sets of 12. So if you can't do 3 sets of 12 comfortably, you need to modify so that you can. And then once you're comfortably at 3 sets of 12, you need to adjust and modify so that it's more challenging. But yeah, I mean, great. I mean, push-ups, dips on a chair are great too. It's mostly going to target here. If you have any shoulder issues, I want to skip it. But heels of your hands on the edge of a chair, knees over your heels to start. So you're just pressing up. And then as that gets easy, you start to walk out further and further. Okay, that's great. Everybody wants to know what to do about this. But if you have any discomfort in your shoulder, call. But yeah, it's the same thing. You just modify as you go. And once you get to 3 sets of 12 being easy, okay, give me something else. You can start to modify. Anybody else? Any questions about what's right for you
I do.
or limitations? Yeah.
Okay, so I know like consistency is a big part of this, but let's say, my goal is to work out 4 times a week.
Mhm.
And I'm able to work out Monday to Thursday, but then the following week, I'm only able to work out, Tuesday through Friday or vice versa.
Mhm.
Does that have like drawbacks as to like working out on different days, or maybe not as like that break period that I want to have, like it's different every single week?
Yeah,
Or there's,
great
like,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, good question. So she's asking the consistency. She's saying, I know consistency matters. but What if I get 2 days this week, 4 days that week, off that week? Doesn't matter. So think of it, just give yourself, again, the grace of a really big window, right? And so listen, there's been months off where I don't exercise. A lot of it is the mind game of, I'm going to get back to that. I don't need to panic, because sometimes life just gets too crazy. So when that happens, find yourself a 10-minute window. Okay, well, I couldn't do that thing, but I can do this thing, right? And listen, for me, who thought, I didn't ever think I'd be meditating in my car for 8 minutes a day or 11 minutes or whatever that guy tells me to do. I don't know, but I'm doing it and I'm really proud of that because, and like I said, I had to give myself the grace to say, okay, Heather, this is not going to be 7 days a week at the same time and the same place with no disruption. That ain't happening. So it's the same thing, is give yourself, think of it more like a year at a time. Like I had a really good year of that. Like I was consistently exercising over time. And sure, you may set a goal for yourself each week. I set my goals each week. So I sit down on a Sunday and I kind of look at my whole week because, you know, I know a lot of people, I don't have time for that. I don't have time not to do it because otherwise I can't get anything done because I'll just put out fires as they come into my lap, right? Or just, but for me, and so I would suggest that is on a Sunday or whatever, that tends to be sort of the end of my week. Well, my kids help me with it too now. What's for dinner this week? So usually I ask them so they don't complain. So then once they feel involved, then they think, okay, I like dinner because I chose it. But then what does that look like? And then from that, what goes on the grocery list? Okay, what meetings do I have this week? What's happening outside my work schedule? Okay, when am I going to exercise? And that's the place I was saying I'm in now too. I'm like, okay, I can't do that 5 days a week now. I got stuff going on. So maybe here I can do a yoga class. Or here, okay, we're going to walk that day. I know Kendall's here, she'll walk with me. So taking that, but then maybe taking a look back at the month going, okay, we did pretty well. I think a lot of us figuring out where you are now, figuring out that you want to make progress. The goal is progress. The goal is not perfection. So it's like, I didn't exercise at all this week. Okay, well, fine. How about next week? And setting those expectations in there. And then sometimes just being realistic about what you're capable of. Because, you know, for me, I know if I set up my goals where I think, okay, I think I'm gonna work on every day this week. And then by Sunday, I'm like, I made it 3 out of those 5 days. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? So that's what that week looked like. Is 3 better than the none I did the 2 weeks before? Yep, it is. And then sometimes you just have to show yourself, there's a lot of people on the couch. And I'm out for a walk, so it's fine, you know? So I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, give yourself a bigger window in terms of what consistency looks like. Week to week, it will not affect your progress. Think of it as movement overall. It takes a long time to lose muscle, right? So if you're working on strength training, same thing with endurance. And that's, I always say, diet is how you lose weight, exercise is how you keep it off. So exercise actually sustains you for a lot longer, which is food. We know we can do really poorly or really well, and we can stay on the scale like in a couple of days and go, oh, look what I did, you know, but it's not that meaningful. But if you're exercising consistently, your body can, and I say consistently as in a few times a week off here or there, your body will be able to sustain the benefits of that for long term.
So when we talk about overall health, is there a specific type of exercise that we should be getting more of, like cardio versus strength? And then does that change as we age?
Yeah, oh, that's a really good question. I think this is one of those things where you have to ask yourself about your own body, right? So like what benefits you? Some people run and it's not good for them, right? Like it may help them lose weight, but their knee hurt. Like, I mean, I can't even get my husband to go for a walk for me with me, you know, because everything hurts. I'm like, oh. But I think a lot of that is understanding your own body, endurance training or aerobic training. So some kind of like doesn't have to be running, but walking and strength training benefits human beings, period. So I think just understanding that on a basic level of how the science of your body works is that's going to be good for you forever, right? It may be a different exercise over time. So a lot of times just as we age, our bodies break down, our schedules changes, you have kids, the kids move out, you have grandkids, you know, and there's just all these different stages. So in general, if you just look at it from a broad category standpoint, aerobic exercise is beneficial for everyone and strength exercise is beneficial for everyone. And honestly, you know, like I was saying earlier, I don't know how it feels. I've not always been some super athlete by any means, but always moving, figuring out a way to always do that. And strength training really is such a big ignored part of exercise that's so important. So I was saying a lot of times we have all these older adults in the gym. They're there because they have to be at that point, you know, not mentally, like some of them enjoy it and have always done it. Their doctors are like, your bone density is low, your weight is the impact of your weight on your body is a problem. So you need to be in there doing aerobic training. So I think how you do those things changes as you age, but that you don't. I mean, I always joke, we all have the same body parts, right? But whether we're, well, not exactly for male or female, but you know what I mean, muscles. And then it doesn't matter how old you are, you still have an elbow, right? You still have a quad, you still have a calf. I mean, so exercises aren't different for men and women. They aren't different for the age that you are, but maybe the weight that you lift is. Right? But in general, over time, resistance training, and that could be Pilates, that could be, I mean, it could be other things. It doesn't have to be lifting dumbbells. But some form of resistance is always going to benefit you. And some, and it lowers your triglycerides. There's all kinds of blood work answers to that question. And then just always figuring out what you, I would say that's what you want to do. To figure out what you want to do, right? If you don't want to run, maybe do some abs on that or on your rug, you know, or whatever.
If you have, I have little 5-pound dumbbells, would it be beneficial to walk with those?
No, don't walk.
Okay, okay.
Yes, great question. I see this a lot less than I used to, and I don't know why, but sometimes I see people with those straps on their feet and the weights in their hands. Do those separately. The reason is that, think about just if you slow down that movement, think about what happens when you do this. Pulls.
Okay.
Like that. So it pulls on those joints going up. So yeah, do them. Just stop. Stop on the way if you want to take them with you, or do it before, do it after, but I would not actually actively walk. It's not, I mean, it's not gonna kill you. And I'm not saying like, this is how people die and they don't know it. It's not that. It's just a matter of that little weight pulls. And then when you feel comfortable, you want to lift more. And so it's a lot on that joint. You think of it like when I'm in the gym and somebody's on a piece of equipment and they bang the weights together, like, oh, it's that impact on the joint. So you're doing that every time, every step. Yes, and it's small, it's not major, but I would avoid.
Are there good exercises to use with resistance bands?
Yeah, think of any form of resistance. So we go through fads, particularly in this country over, I don't know, the shaker weight, the Pilates, the kettlebells, the dumbbells, what they look like, all this stuff, resistance bands, it all works. So just think it's the exact same exercise you would do if you picked up a dumbbell. It's not better or worse. It's just putting resistance on your body. So anytime we do strength training, what happens in our muscles is they're taxed, right? So if you look like the bone's pretty fixed, it's hard, right? For the most part, you have a muscle over it. And as you lift, your bone bends slightly as you pull. And then your muscles get sore, right? So the soreness in your muscles, these little tears, these little micro tears in your muscle, and then red blood cells go in there, which is why you can feel like this sometimes after you lift, like, whoa, what's going on in there? So that's all the blood going in there to fix that. But then it doesn't matter what your body from the inside out doesn't know what you're moving, right? It's just resistance. So the resistance is what helps build the bone density. So any of that stress, when it's healthy stress on a muscle and a bone, will improve your bone density and improve your strength. So it's just a matter of, and you want to be sore, not miserably sore, that's not worth it, but a little bit of tension the next day, we're like, oh, I did something. That's your system going in there. So yeah, but bands are great. What's great about bands is travel, accessibility. I mean, you can put them in your bag, you can put them in your car, you can put them in your office. They can be anywhere, and just look at the exact same bicep curl with the band, bicep curl with dumbbell, bicep curl with the kettlebell. Doesn't matter what it looks like. You think it from the inside out. It's just resistance for your body. So.
How do you get people through when you start a workout program and you feel a little bit sore?
Mm-hmm.
And then they may interpret that as, oh, I'm hurting myself or what have you, and don't want to continue. How do you get people motivated through that and kind of get them to see that they're, you know, they're just working through?
Mm-hmm.
the
Are
sort of
you
thing.
torturing people outside of this?
No.
Just kidding. This is like the question I always get from the spouse that's in the gym. Oh, I can't get her in here. I can't get him in here because I'm so sore. I think it depends.
No, I just put my shoes on and run anyway. I just let it out. It's like, oh, I gotta go because I'm gonna be eating that cake when I get home. So
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Clearly you're the fit
But I
person.
hear that
So
a
like,
lot.
wait a minute. Right. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like you're a fit person who's got people around you who are telling you this thing like, oh, I don't like to do it because.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times I hear from lots of people. I just heard from one this morning who said she used to work with a trainer and the trainer just killed her. I mean,
Yeah.
she ended up in physical therapy, you know, so I think it depends on what gets them that way, right? So that's why I say you want a little bit of soreness, but when I'm in a consultation with somebody, I'm like, you're not going to be miserably sore. Because some people are like, oh, I'm not sore. I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, the
Still
job is
making
not to
progress.
die here, it's to live longer. So, but I think it depends on what's causing the soreness. You can work out and not be sore at all, right? Those of us who work out all the time know like, oh, did I do enough? You know, versus did I do it? So I think some of it for them is helping them better understand. Like what I was just
Yeah.
telling you, a lot of times what I'll tell
Yeah.
people is the science behind that is that means it's working, but you should not be miserably sore. Now, sometimes I'm really sore, but I don't like to do that to myself either. I mean,
Right.
I'm in it for the long game, right? So sure, sometimes I'm like, oh, I needed that. I'm like, oh, okay. Note to self, that was a lot. But as a whole, and I think a lot of people do that when they're getting started again. And so they're like, always like, oh, every time I get started, I'm so sore. They're probably overdoing it. I mean, the first few weeks of working with somebody, I'm like, you should feel like you noticed we did something, but you should not be miserable. It's not hard to make somebody miserably sore. That's pretty easy. It's not necessary though. So I think maybe just explaining that, like, you're supposed to feel that way a little bit, but if you're miserable, you're definitely doing too much. It's very rare that I see somebody that has some sort of medical condition that's creating that, right? I'm like, I don't know, I think it's pretty normal. A lot, you know, it's really funny. This happens more for whatever reason. It's the women's fund, so I can say this, right? Men think they have the flu.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm down with something. I think I got, like, are you achy and tired? But I used to have a client that always, she had trained with me for years, and once her husband started coming in, it was like she was like, oh, I think he has the flu again. I don't know if he's gonna be here too. Like, it's crazy. I felt a lot better once I got up. She's like, okay, good. But you know, yeah, a little bit of soreness is normal. And I think some people, especially when you're the fit person in the room, they don't want to hear it, right? I mean, they're like, well, you don't know because, you know, or whatever it is. Sometimes it's hard to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's normal to be a little bit sore, but.
So what's your opinion of the power plate? Speaking of like exercise fads, that seems to be like the big deal nowadays.
Yeah, I remember that.
Crazy exercises on the power plate. It really,
It's great.
figure out how I think about how.
It's great. I mean,
myself.
it's not necessary.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. I remember when I moved to Houston, that came out. And I remember the girl who I was working with, she was opening her own studio and she was really into all the trendy stuff. She was like, I got a power, it was $1 million. I don't know, it was something crazy. And I was like, whoa, what? So yeah, I mean, it works. I mean, I would say it's probably more, you're not gonna see a visible difference in your progress from it. It's just another thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not hocus pocus, it works, you know, it's another way to balance and have stimulation and resist. I mean, it's not a resistance plate by itself. Do you guys know what that is? This thing is, this power plate. So it's a thing that you step on and it's a platform and it vibrates. So when you do something on it, there are benefits. So you have proprioceptors in your feet. And so as your body receives those signals from your feet, just like if you guys seen one of those, it's like a half a ball and it's flat on the bottom.
Yeah.
You stand on that, or if you try to put yourself on a stability ball and sit on it, it's like, so the power plate is like creating that. And so it stimulates the proprioceptors in your feet, which increases balance and stimulate. It's just that thing, but it's not magic. I mean, it's cool, you know. Makes me feel weird when I get on it. I don't have one, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's more, I mean, it's helpful for medical stuff, some of those things, you know, if you have people with drop foot or neurological stuff, it's just
Oh, I
a
love
different
that.
way to
Yeah.
stimulate. Yeah, but from a, don't go buy one.
Yeah.
Unless you're rich, fine. But you know, it's not something that's gonna be a huge difference maker probably in your journey. Yeah.
They put the horses on,
Oh, neat.
yeah, for like a massage thing.
Oh, right, sure. Yeah, well, and there's like the massage gun. I mean, that's not the same thing at all, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool tool and it has benefits. But for most of us walking around every day, it's just a cool thing to see. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yes. So you showed us some wall push-ups and how you can kind of transition that once you build up strength.
Mhm.
What are some of your other favorite body weight exercises?
Yeah, I mean, the basics, right? So squats are really great. The key thing, I remember we did this in the presentation before. I'll bring this chair over here for the camera. Squats, there's a really right way to do it and a lot of wrong ways to do it. So the key on a squat, okay, and I always tell this story. I don't know why, it's not a story, but you don't want to die like Elvis died, right? I know it wasn't because he wasn't working out properly, but like, you just don't want to be in a place where you can't stand up. You don't want it to be any particular place. So I have my older clients who are like, God really speaks to me. Like one of the things we start to do to compromise that or modify that on our own is we use our hands to get up. You always in the rest of your life want to be able to stand up without using your hands to stand up, right? Because our arms are also getting weaker as we get older, right? So you always want to be able to stand up on your own. So when you are doing a squat for exercise, and really any other time if you've got it on your mind, knees over heels, shoulders over hips, and stand. It's harder than you think. Because I know it because when I'm doing it in the gyms, particularly with my rehab clients, my older clients, they're like, why are you making that harder? You want to put your feet under and push because you have more power that way. That's not what you should be doing from an exercise standpoint. So shoulders over hips, over knees, over heels. And then when you sit, your weight goes into your heels. So that when you sit, your knees are over your heels, shoulders over your hips, and then stand. That's the goal on a basic squat. And then standing with weights would be next, right? If you want to work on your endurance, put your hands over your head. So here. And up, right? Now your heart's got to pump blood up and down. Right? It's easy to go down, that's gravity, right? But as you pump up, so anything you do overhead, be careful shoulder-wise, but overhead. A lunge, which is a really hard move for most people, and most people think it's bad, it's because it's hard. So it's a lot of lower body. Ah, that was not what I thought it was gonna be. Oh, okay. So in a basic one, actually, before we do that, I saw you do it. Everybody do a squat like that.
Oh, wow.
With that, hold on.
Micro in every.
Also, your chairs are on wheels, so be very careful. Yeah, so think about your knees over your heels. And you're in a seated position, your knees over your heels. Let's get the hand here. Yeah, if you don't have the hands over your head.
We're all gonna be in our offices.
Right.
Show off.
Knees over your heels. So what we all tend to want to do is put our feet back here.
That's easier.
Yeah, exactly. That's it heels in front. So you always, here's why, it compromises your knee joint. So you do not want your toes back here behind your knees. You want your heels under your knees, hands straight out and straight up. So yeah, perfect. So as you're standing, you want the weight to be driving through your heel as you stand up, not on your toe. So always just up and down. And again, cardio wise, and then you can get your heart rate up just by doing squats. But you want it more, hands overhead. Or grab weights. Want that to be cardio? Hold them here. I don't recommend moving and putting weights overhead. Yeah, I'm just saying to challenge yourself from a cardio, you can just hold them straight down too. Start with that. Don't hold weights up here overhead. If you want to rest them here at your shoulder, you can. Okay, and then a lunge, a basic lunge.
Wheelchair.
What does this do?
Increases the cardiovascular benefit because it makes it more aerobic because your heart has to pump blood up to your hands and your arms,
Oh.
right? So like when we're standing, our heart, it's easy for blood to go down. But when you got to stand, it's got to go up here. So do that with a weight. Wow.
Oh.
Your heart will beat fast.
Yeah.
And you can get plenty of cardiovascular benefit just from standing and squatting without any weights because it's the larger muscle groups in your body, right? So that blood's got to circulate. So that's what's going to get your heart up. All right, a basic lunge. So you have a long stride position. Now, a lot of people think if they have bad knees, they can't do this, right? Sometimes that's right. But sometimes it's because they're not doing it right. So long stride, a double stride, so double walking stride. Toes are out in front. Both feet are facing the same direction. I always say take the elevator, not the escalator, right? So don't go forward. Same rule, knee stays behind your toe, you go down. So back foot, you're on your toe. You're just up and down. So you can brace yourself. I usually put people between two benches at the gym. I'll take people to my house. Long stride, and then come together and switch. And it's the same thing, knee over heel, back leg is almost straight. What you don't want, I hate to even say this because it's gonna stick in somebody's brain. No 90 degrees back. A lot of people think you want to shorten that to, and I don't do that. Your femur bone is really powerful. And if it goes, think about you're on a bend and you push something down, that kneecap flexes out. Don't want that. So you want a long stride and just up and down. Same thing, this will get your heart rate up, right? You move your hands up, thanks. Lots of cardiovascular benefits. So sometimes when you don't have time in your office, you don't have time to even walk, that can be great cardio for you. It's like a little hip workout. It's a little high, low for you.
Right. Sure, you can set 3 sets of 12.
Always 3 sets of 12 is a good baseline. So every single person that comes in the gym gets a total body workout, 3 sets of 12. That is how you figure out your baseline and what you're capable of at that number. So it's the same all the time, everywhere. I didn't make it up. It's a science thing. At that repetition is a good idea. And then it goes all over the place from there. But that's a good baseline for you. And it's also a way for you to always remind yourself where you are. Let's say you're on the wagon, off the wagon. Oh, where was I last January when I took this on? Well, I could do it like this, so it helps you set mentally where you were for a baseline workout. But again, 3 sets of 12.
Yes, I think we have time for one last question, if anyone has anything.
I have one.
Sure.
Okay, so I know like right now the trend around like my friends, it's like going to the gym, obviously,
Mhm.
but it's also like taking pre-workout and taking supplements or taking creatine or taking this. Like, what's your opinion on that if we're gonna go consistently to the gym? or workout in general?
So I would go through the same process of what's your goal? What are your limitations? I would not spend a lot of money on that stuff.
Okay.
A lot of the science and nutrition for health is based on bodybuilding or athletes, right? Because they're high performance and those things matter a lot. That stuff rarely matters for the rest of us. It is the minutia of the science. It's science and it's real and it's not hocus pocus, but the pre-workout and the post-work, all that stuff, it's so expensive. It's not gonna make a difference. It's just not. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you have, like, caffeine is a stimulant, right? So actually, a lot of times when, I mean, I like to use, and I'm not like some naturalist, but as natural as we can be is good, right? I mean, we want to do the things that are best for our body. But a lot of times, like if we're training for a race or something, I will get everybody to taper their caffeine. I don't do anything pre-workout, post-workout, none of that stuff yet. You need to eat before you work out if you can. If you can't, try to have something that you can drink. I'd recommend Slim Fast. Easy. It's healthy. It's processed. I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world for you, but protein, carbs, fat, fiber are in that thing. And then post-workout, again, you are not going to see some major difference in your body or your life by what you do. So caffeine is a stimulant, right? So if you want to do that before a workout, you will get your heart rate up higher. It's what it does. And it will stay higher longer, which can have some benefits. Again, it's going to be, it'll make an impact on calories, but it's not going to be like, I started drinking caffeine before my workout and I dropped 20 pounds. Who knew? You know what I mean? So I would say, don't invest in that stuff. It's just too much. Let your friends do it. Tell them they're amazing. It's just,
Okay.
and ask them how's that going for you? You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's just, that stuff is, all the supplement stuff is, it can
It's
just be
crazy
a lot. And
expensive,
it's complicated because it is based on real science. It's not, you know, but it's not, it's just, you know, when you're trying to go from 3% body fat to 2%, it matters.
Okay.
That's never gonna happen to me. You know what I mean? It's like, eat the right protein, eat the right carbs, eat the right calories is where to start, right? So that's what I tell everybody. Once you figure out how many calories you're eating in a day and you're doing it, we'll talk about that. That's what I usually tell somebody in the gym. I'm like, don't bring me another Shape magazine or Men's Health magazine article about that. Yeah, okay. So are we timely?
We're good.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Thank you. And you guys know, I think you might know where to find me. If you need to ask any questions, the door is always open for me. And then you guys can have these incredible fun things about Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Heather. Every time I hear you speak, I learn something new. And I will definitely be incorporating the hands overhead a little bit to get my cardio up. Before we finish, I just want to take a few moments here to say a few things. One is we really appreciate you coming in person or tuning in virtually for our first presentation for the year. We are going to be doing these series monthly. So you can check our website. We should have our schedule up very soon. Our next presentation will be on February 16th. Again, it's going to be in the same location here at Kelsey-Seybold Main Clinic from 12 to 1 p.m. So we hope that you will be joining us for that presentation. The topic is going to be healthy relationships. So we will get that up on our website shortly. For those of you who attended virtually, I will be sending out a follow-up email later today, and we would really appreciate if you would take a few moments to provide us with some feedback by taking our survey. Heather would love that feedback as well. She uses it. We want to hear from you what you enjoyed, what we could do better, what topics you're interested in hearing as well. And then finally, please follow us on our social media accounts, the Women's Fund Houston. We post about upcoming events, as well as a lot of other really great posts around health and wellness. So thank you all again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Bye.